It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Santa Barbara City College head women's basketball coach, Coach Sandrine Krul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you were going to get started in coaching in college women's basketball?
So I have been coaching for over 3 decades. I've been a head coach for 22 years, and I actually had a really good California Community College head coach, Doug Michelson, and I played at LA Valley College. And, I, as a freshman, and I'm like, wow, like I could do this. And so I went to him and I said, I want to be a coach. I want to do what you do. And he's like, it's a lot of work. Like, if you're serious, then we got to start working on your leadership. I mean, I know you're going to be a captain and I know all that great stuff, but it's different when you're leading people and also knowing how to follow. So it started back in 1988.
What was that experience like going to LA Valley?
It was awesome. I had a great academic athletic career at LA Valley. It was, back in the 80s, going to California Community College, it was only $50. I do not come from an affluent background. And so that was the next step from North Hollywood High School to LA Valley. And I was majoring in physical education. And when Coach Michelson was recruiting me, he, said, okay, you have a lot of ability, but it's going to be work because you're not that athletic. So you're going to have to work hard. And I'm like, no one's going to outwork me. He didn't know at the time that I'm very competitive. And that actually is why I had a great career at Valley. And we played some really great teams. We got to the state tournament both years, lost in high school, got to the city finals, lost. So I've always been the bridesmaid. But anyway, I am lucky enough at a very young age to find my passion, to really understand what coaching is, mentoring, providing directional leadership. And it's where it built my self-esteem because I was always bigger, I was always thicker. And on the basketball court, that was celebrated. And so my confidence went up. And again, the basketball court is where I was able to be accepted for being at an athlete and being, pronounced, a forward or back in, and also like a center. I'm only 5'9", but back then it was again celebrated. So I was like, wow, call it find my people. I found my people at a very young age. And the mentorship that Coach Doug Michelson uh, gave me, I mean, it's priceless. Decades later, I'm 55 now, I'm still teaching his, philosophical tenets about character, about mental toughness, and about, you're not just coaching a team, you're building a program, and then you're providing directional leadership. So I was I want to say lucky to find that passion, but it's also Coach Michelson saw something in me. And when you have someone who you look up to say, you know what, I really believe in you, sky's the limit. And you got to believe that they believe in you.
What was that transition like for you going from being a player to coaching at your alma mater?
In my younger years, coaching was easy for me. It was an easier transition because after I played at LA Valley, then I, went and played at Cal State San Bernardino for a year, and then I transferred to Cal State Northridge, and then I went and got my master's at Azusa. And as I was at Cal State Northridge, I became Coach Michelson's assistant, along with John Taylor, and he's the head coach at Antelope Valley College, who now coaches the men. And now the playing field is equal. I'm not player coach with Coach Michelson or Coach Taylor. We are now equal. And so he gave me a lot of responsibilities. I had to do on-floor coaching. And back in the day, filming was not what it is today. Technology was not what it is today. So I mean, it was a lot of long hours, but again, I never thought of it as work. I just like, it was fun. So the transition from playing to coaching was easy because I got to be an assistant at my alma mater with the coaches that coached me. And then Coach Michelson went to the men, and then John Taylor took over. And I coached there for 6 years. And then I went over to Moore Park College for 6 years. And then I started here in 2004 as a full-time tenured faculty member, which in California, those positions are rare. Usually they hire like professional experts or part-time coaches. So when this job, I thought I was going to take over Moore Park because, the head coach was going to step down, and I had a great career there coaching with her, Sherry Reuter. She taught me a lot, especially about defensive philosophy. Again, another great mentor in this path of me having my own program. So I think, again, it's the people in your path, and they were not yes people. They were grinders. They made me grind. They told me things sometimes that I didn't want to hear, like, no, I don't want to go recruit at 7 o'clock in LA with LA traffic, but I had to go. And the stipend when I was an assistant was like $500, so again, you don't go back then, you don't go into coaching at our level to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. You really do it because it's a mission. It's a mission for young women who are not being recruited out of high school, but they're good enough. They have the grades, but just 4 years are passing up on them, even now more so with the transfer portal. So I'm like, community college will be my mission. I've always felt that in my heart. And then I've been at Santa Barbara since 2004, and we've won a lot of games. We've produced a lot of great athletes over the years, but I'm most proud of graduating. I mean, it's over 20 years, 98% of our athletes, that go on, some go on to play at the next level. I've never coached a Division I player, but they're signing that scholarship, that letter of intent that they didn't get out of high school. So just, again, providing that. But I will tell you, Brandon, it has been tougher to coach nowadays. It has been tougher because the world has distracted the athlete. The tenets are still there. They know the difference between being interested and being dedicated, but there's so much distractions with their cell phones and the social media. And I mean, so I've had to adapt, and I've had to become a lot more innovative in practice to keep their attention. But I still love it, still have the joy. So I'm not ready to hang it up yet.
During your time at Moore Park, what was some of the things you were able to accomplish as assistant coach?
As an assistant, so you'll have to double check this, but I think our best years, we went 28 or 26-8, 29-3, I think. You'll have to double check that, but those were some really good athletic teams that we coached there. And again, I always say, even when I was at Moore Park, and the head coach was Sherry Reuter, and I said, Sherry, it cannot just be about X's and O's, because for some of these athletes, after Moore Park, they're not going to play on anymore. So we want to give them the experience. What are they learning from us in terms of their grit, their perseverance? What leadership skills are we providing for them? What opportunities that we're going to give them by playing in our system? Because in California, we don't have athletic scholarships. So every player in any California community college, Brandon, they play like not because of a scholarship. They're playing because they really love it and they really want to use it as a stepping stone to get to that 4 year, whether academically or athletically.
For you, what was that transition like, going from being an assistant coach to getting a head coaching job at Santa Barbara?
It was seamless, again, because I've had the right people in my path of really mentoring me. So when I was at Moore Park, Coach Sherry Reuter, she was coaching for a long time, and she's like, Sandrine, I'm going to give you a lot of responsibilities. And I'm like, I'm here for it. And then the athletic director at the time, John Keever, love him. I mean, I have this job because of Keever. And, they taught me about paperwork, administrative duties, and just how to lead as a head coach and have a presence, even though I was an assistant. So I would run practice, do practice plans. She taught me again about the defensive philosophies. Are you going to switch defenses? Are you going to do matchups? What's your scout look like? So she gave me the blueprint, but she also allowed me to coach, even though she had the head coach title. And so I will forever be grateful for that. And then for John Keever, he said, look, we got to keep you here. I want you to quit that other job that you were doing. And I want you here, even though it's part-time, but you're going to teach kickboxing. You're going to teach spinning. We're going to get you in your fitness center. And I'm like, okay, like I'm here for it. So again, it was just when you have an enthusiasm and you revere the sport, all the pieces tend to fall into place. It's not just about respecting the sport, you revere it. It speaks to your soul. And that's what basketball has done for me. I mean, again, a family of immigrants, my first language is French. I went to school not knowing any English, and we didn't have any money. And so here, this kid, I'm playing basketball, and it was like, wow, like this could be something. And I also had a good high school coach, but I was too young to really understand it until I got to LA Valley.
For you,
So
what was that feeling like stepping onto that court for the first time as a head coach?
it was surreal because at LA Valley and Moore Park at the time, we're in the same conferences, LA Valley, Moore Park, Santa Barbara. So here's a fun fact. Are you ready for a fun fact? So back in 1988, I'm playing at LA Valley. We drive up to Santa Barbara. I'm a freshman. Ellen O'Connor was a head coach here. And fast forward to 2004, I had my best games at Santa Barbara. And she's on the hiring committee. And I was deathly afraid of this woman. She was intimidating. She was strong. She'd come in, have a presence. And I'm like, I want to be her one day. But she was just, and so in the interview, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Ellen. Oh my gosh. And so anyway, long story short, it was surreal because I've competed against Ellen when I was at Valley and Moore Park. And, Ellen stepped down to build our fitness center that we have here now. And we're fast friends. And we laugh about it all the time. I used to tell her, like, you used to scare me because you were just on the sideline. And then here I am, you hire me, and full-time tenure, moving up to Santa Barbara, all that great stuff. And you're showing me the campus. And that first game was really, it was full circle. Again, I revere the sport, but you've got to be grateful for the opportunity that people saw something in you before you could see it in yourself. And that's what I try to tell my athletes. I'm going to bring out things that you may not like. I'm going to make you go harder in practice because I film every single practice, and that's your body of work. But the blessing and the miracles will happen. Trust my process. Trust the program's process.
For you, what was that feeling like getting a win as a head coach for the first time?
The win. So I never tip my hat. I have over 300 wins, which is really cool, right? All that good stuff. So actually, that first game, 2004, I was like, please don't let anybody get injured because we had a small team because I got the job so late, so I couldn't recruit. And I was like, please don't let anybody get injured. We have 8, and I want to start with 8, and I want to end with 8. Here's another thing. John Taylor and Coach Michelson, one of my roles at LA Valley was to recruit. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. And again, then just, breathing life and love into me saying, Sandrine, you have the gift of gab, like you can recruit. And I'm like, and I fell in love with it. I mean, I do all the recruiting for my program as a head coach. My assistants do other things, but they will not recruit. They see someone, I will go, I will make the introduction. And at our level, there's no letter of intent. So you're putting all this time and, love into recruiting into these athletes, and you don't always get them.
Does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your athletes?
So typical game day for us, see, California Community College, when you're a full-time faculty member, you teach classes. So I have a full day. So let's say we're playing a home game on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Well, I've already taught 3 classes in the morning, and then so I'm here. So I get in the office. If we're playing at 5, my classes end at 2. I'm in the office, just again preparing for that game. We've already done prior preparing, but just, going over the scout, going over their best players, and then it's really no different than if I was preparing for a class, my lecture class, my kinesiology class, my fitness center spinning class, boxing class. It's just all about preparation. So you got to love what you do. And I don't mean that to sound like a cliche, because we spend a lot of time that we're not compensated for. So it really is, again, it goes back to that great word that you revere the sport. So you don't look at it as work.
For you, what is that like, balancing being a professor and also the head women's basketball coach?
You have to have a good support system. So, I've been married for over 27 years. I've known my husband. I met him when I was 12, hung out when we were younger. He was friends with my brothers. So John supports me a lot, even when the kids were little. Like, my kids are grown now, but if you don't have that support system, that balance is really hard, because you feel like you want to be a great instructor for your students who are not athletes. You want to be that great coach for your athletes. You want to be a great wife and a great husband, a great mother, a sister, right? A daughter. So you have to build, which I call your support network. Like, who are they, where they know, okay, hey, Sandrine's going to be there all day. I'm going to bring her a coffee, because I mainline caffeine. So everybody knows, like, hey, Sandrine's there all day. I'll come into the office. Like, someone left me these today, because they knew I'll be here today, even though we don't have a game, but I'll be recruiting tonight after this phone call. So they left me a cute little note, like, hey, I know you're going to be here all day. Enjoy your sunflower peanut butter cups, because I'm allergic to peanut butter. So isn't that just so sweet, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the sweetest note. So again, you got to pour life and love into the people around you. And, when you walk into a room, you don't want to be obnoxious. You don't want to be over the top, but I'm not going to diminish my light of really how enthusiastic I am and grateful that I get to do what I do. I don't have to do it. I get to do it. Big difference.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you started to build for the women's basketball program?
Can you say that again?
The culture that you've started to build for the women's basketball.
Yeah, so our culture, and I don't know if you can see it, but back here, it's MTXE. So our program is built on those 4 letters, which those 4 letters come from the 1971 Wichita State men's basketball program. So mental toughness, extra effort, that is what the program is founded on. It's what I talk to the recruits about. We're going to build your mental toughness, so the extra effort comes into play in your academic life. If you don't put that extra effort in class, there is no mental toughness. It's the same thing in if you have to work or on the basketball court. So that is the foundation. And then I throw into the culture, I'm a humanistic coach. I truly believe that everyone deserves a second or third chance. And what that means is, whatever your past was, and I get to coach you now, how do we move forward? So humanism is a philosophical approach when you're looking at education. I just tailor it to my basketball program. So a humanistic, holistic perspective with MTXE. So when my players leave here after 2 years, they've been through it. They know how hard it is to study, to balance, to work, to have a relationship, and they're not feeling overwhelmed. So they quit. So they create win-win situations. So a win-win is, hey, I could be a student athlete. I'm also going to need to make sure I know what resources are available to me. And that's what MTXE is. That's what humanism is. You look at the whole person, mind, body, spirit. And honestly, Brandon, maybe that's why I haven't won a state championship, because on our team, we like to have a team of 15, except for my first year, because I got it so late. My players know that if they're 13th, 14th, and 15th, they can redshirt, but they're not going to get in unless we're up by a lot or losing by a lot. But we're going to play 12. So I want them to have the experience. And 13, 14, and 15, they know their self-worth is not attached to that playing time, because again, we're breathing life into them about being a good teammate, being a good, oh my gosh, a good leader, a good person? What does that look like? So I know it's long-winded, but the greatest, I have tattoos on my arms and legs, and the greatest gift athletes give me is when they come back and they're like, Coach, I got MTXE tattooed. And I'm like, where? And it's on their foot, it's on their back. It's just, again, that MTXE becomes a lifestyle. And it's just trusting the process and trusting the people that had your best intentions.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
Oh man, we have a tough conference. So we're the Western State Conference, North and South Division. So now the North Division is us, Moore Park, Ventura, Oxnard, Cuesta, and Hancock. And, Ventura has won many state titles. Moore Park has been to the state tournament. They haven't won it yet. So there's no easy game in our conference at all. Every night, I mean, you got to prepare. But I always tell my team this, Brandon, you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. And I actually stole that from the R&B singer Usher years ago. When I heard the song, I'm like, that is so MTXE. So I try to tell him, like, don't make the game bigger than it is, whether we're playing Oxnard, who's like middle of the road, or, Ventura, who's top, or Moore Park, who's top. The game is a game. You're going to be prepared. Mind, body, spirit, the schemes, offense, defense, you will be prepared. So don't give your power away because you think they're better than you. So this year we beat Ventura twice, so that was really nice. We have not beaten Moore Park in the last 4 years. So that's that's what we kind of pride ourselves on. It's like, okay, we're here, we've beaten Ventura. Now we got to get Moore Park, man. So how do we get there?
What is
And recruiting, Brandon, recruiting, no scholarships. It is expensive to live in Santa Barbara, right? I mean, it's beautiful where I literally can throw a ball into the ocean from my office. I mean, that's how close we are. So we're not always going to get the best athlete. We go after them, but I don't pay the bills, and if they can't afford it, I'm not going to bring them here on false pretenses. Like, you have to be able to afford it, but we will compete. We will start strong and finish strong throughout the whole year. So just had to add that in.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Moore Park comes?
I can't hear you. Can you say that again?
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Moore Park comes to home?
I try, there are rivals, but I say every game is our rivals, but the kids and social media and, they know everybody on their team. And see, I didn't grow up in that. And I'm not on social media because I would fail because I already watch a lot of game film, recruiting film. I mean, I would be on social media 24/7. It would take me out of balance. So I just choose not to be a part of it. But they know things about players that I didn't grow up in, right? So they know, like, oh, this player didn't go to practice. I'm like, how do you know a player on another team didn't go? And they're like, well, they posted on social media. I'm like, wow, that's just, I mean, they're teaching me a lot. And then we just have to decipher what is real to what is not real. So what can you control? What, control the controllables. So, so we just try to, yeah, the Moore Park Venturas, it's they're up there. So rivals, we can't get away from it. The last 4 years, every time we play Moore Park, we play terrible because they make it bigger than what it is. And I'm really, that's what I'm doing in the off season. How do you prepare them to play Moore Park? Who, talent for talent, we're pretty much the same. So I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest. We're going to prepare, we're going to coach, and hopefully they can shoot better than we did the previous day. That's always the plan, right?
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a coach, what do you look at in them?
I am so sorry. I can't hear you. I don't know if it's my volume. Can you say that again?
Mm-hmm. What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a coach, what do you look at in them?
Okay, so I always want to recruit locally first. But what I have found out after COVID, locally is our Santa Barbara County and our contiguous districts like Ventura County, as well. And ever since COVID, a lot of local talent, they stopped playing after high school. They're like, I'm done, I'm burnt out. And I'm like, no, I do it differently. Like, We don't play after Thanksgiving. You'll have 5 days off. You get 10 days off at Christmas. I don't want you picking up a ball. Like, I promise I will not overwhelm you. I want a win-win. Because again, see, it goes up to that MTXC is win-win. If you're burnt out, we don't win. And if you're not mentally healthy, you can't be physically healthy. So we do a lot with mental health when I'm talking about recruiting. So that's been kind of a shift where local kids aren't wanting to play. So we have a recruiting tool called Front Rush. So players from all over the state, they'll look up Santa Barbara and then they fill out the recruit form. I watch their film, I'll call them. Just like today at 3 o'clock, I have to call a recruit who messaged us on Front Rush the other day. And I'm like, okay, but no matter how we recruit it, I go to local games, I go to practices, players from out of the area, out of state, they have to be able to afford it. And the reality is that some can't. And I'm not going to tell them to take out a loan to play basketball in Santa Barbara. Keep the loans for your 4-year. Other coaches might do that. I don't do that. So that's why we're very competitive. Maybe that's why I haven't won a state title here yet. We've won conference, yes, in the past. Because I'm not going to bring a student athlete here under false pretenses.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen putting on that uniform for the first time versus them putting it on for the last time?
I've been really fortunate to have really cool teams. And so when they put on that, like this year, our last practice here, we made it to second round of playoffs, and one of my captains said, if we don't win, we're not practicing Monday. And they were just like, I don't want to take it off. So again, it's just, I'm trying to teach them that the game is bigger than yourself. So be that good role model, understand, be where your feet are. That's another cliche I use, or quote, or however you want to say it. Be where your feet are. Stop looking ahead. Be here right now. So when they said that, I was like, wow, this is a special group, because they're really understanding the beauty of what they just accomplished, and they're not looking ahead of, where am I transferring to? Who's going to recruit me?
What are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Brandon, I'm going to be retiring soon. I got 4 years left in me, and then I'll be an assistant somewhere, and they'll say, you want me to coach? Can you sweep up the floor? For sure. Like, whatever you don't want to do, I'll do. I am a very good number 2. So the future of this program is to find someone who leads it with passion and direction, that breathes life into the students and the athletes that they're serving, because coaching is a service-oriented field. So I want to turn it over to that type of individual who don't get lost in the X's and O's, or don't put your self-worth in that maybe you're not winning as much, because think about the lives you're transforming, because they are at a California community college for a reason. So that's what I'm looking for.
What advice would you give those future college players looking to play on the college level?
So our players, the advice is, know the difference between being dedicated and interested. There's a difference. And, dedication is when the miracle comes, when it's hard. Don't let other people fight your battle. Don't look at the healthy competition that's happening. Again, revere it. That would be my advice. Revere the sport.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own program?
The biggest advice that I could ever give, and I mentor some young coaches up and coming, and I always say, what are you known for? That if you walk into a gym and other coaches see you, what are you known for? And they kind of look at me, and I said, build your philosophy, build your personal philosophy, your program philosophy, and most importantly, build the culture that you would want to play in.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program app?
I'm not on social media, but they could email me. They can find me. I am on LinkedIn, because that's a professional organization. So they can find me there. They can go to sbcc.edu. look up women's basketball. I have a great social media director named Kimmin who does all our social media stuff. So they could reach out there. But Brandon, this has been great. I hope I've given you some good content to help other future coaches or just, again, understand that our profession is a calling. It is a service that we provide.
Thank you again for your interview and best luck in your future as head coach at Santa Barbara.
Thank you, Brandon, so much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach, for your interview and best luck in your future.
Thank you. And right back at you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.